So hi, I'm really excited to have Mary Corbett with me and to be interviewing Mary today. Mary now works with very busy managers to help them increase their productivity and have a life back again as well. So Mary, thank you so much for agreeing to be here today.
I'm absolutely delighted to be here.
Fabulous. And I'd love you just to say a little bit about yourself and the work you do.
Okay, well, I'm like many coaches in that I had a mid-career change because I got tired of being too busy and trying to fit everything in. So over the last couple of years, I've struggled to find a niche as to who are the people that I can support best. And it has gradually, and I must say quite gradually emerged, the people I'm really good with are people who are really, really busy. And the reason being is they get themselves caught up in that I have to do. When I hear somebody saying I have to, it's almost like a trigger that says you're doing too much.
Yeah.
There's no have to, you choose to.
Yeah.
And so it's quite interesting to make sure that they have, getting them challenged to say, do you really have to? Is it nice? And what happens, and what I find quite fascinating, is that oftentimes they've got into a habit of just doing things a certain way, and that certain way is no longer serving them well. Mm. And so when we look at the habits they have around work, we can make fabulous changes, and really quickly.
Oh, fantastic. That sounds awesome. So I'm going to be super excited to ask you a few questions about that in a bit, to find out
absolutely
key strategies and suggestions if anyone listening is too busy. And has overwhelming to-do lists. But first, I'd really like to know a bit about what the impact is that you're wanting to make with your coaching business. What is it?
Okay, the impact I want to make is I want people to feel that they're thriving. I love nothing better than to work with somebody and then see them shine. Because when we're super stressed, it's very hard to shine.
Yeah.
So I love working with individuals more so than groups. I'm a great fan because everybody has such a wonderful, complex story. And when you understand their story, you can understand sometimes why they are making the choices they're making and why they're putting themselves under pressure. And then when we look at all of that, we can say, okay, is that why still actually important to me? And so we can make, a significant change. So people being able to get home at a reasonable time, or maybe change their work schedule so that they might be able to bring the kids home early if they happen to have children and work later in the evening. That might actually suit them. There's no one size fits all. So very much finding what are the priorities and knowing that you've given them a better quality of life and they're thriving.
Oh, wow. That sounds great. So, so tell me, kind of, what approach do you use when it comes to your coaching? What's your style of coaching?
Oh, I am ultra pragmatic. I am grounded, solid. Let's find practical. I was a project manager for a number of years. I want solutions and I want quick fixes before we do the detailed work. So very often I'll be looking to see where is the biggest stumbling block. And if we can chip away at that really quickly and give them a sense of there is another way, then you can do the more detailed work. So it's very much hitting the quick stuff first so that they get some sense of, hang on, just because I do it this way, it isn't the only way to do things. Mm-hmm. And, I would be very, very conscious that we all develop patterns of behavior where we're very much focused on, well, this is how I do it. And when you think about it, when we get up in the morning, we have a pattern that we do. We don't think about whether we brush our teeth before we have our shower or we have our shower first. We don't think about the sequence of the shower and the cup of coffee. And that serves us really, really, really well until you change the environment. So add in maybe a new partner, or add in a couple of kids, or add in an aging parent, and suddenly your morning sequence that you might have had for 10 years doesn't function well.
Yeah, get
So
it.
what I will say is, let's look at what has changed in the environment and say, okay, if this has changed, is this pattern still actually serving you well? Because we do get tied to our patterns and we hold on to them for dear life because they're really comfortable.
Well,
So
I can relate to that.
I think we all can relate to it. And that's why I find that oftentimes some of the people I work with would be, they get promoted to a new role, or else they'll move to a new company. And the environment is different. The demands on them are different, but they're holding on to the things they've always done before.
Yeah.
I'm thinking of one client in particular who got promoted because of their attention to detail. But that was attention to detail that was relevant for that level in the company. The senior person needed to be able to take the bird's eye view, but they were staying stuck in the detail. And so their staff weren't happy because they weren't been allowed to do the work. And everybody was, and he was struggling because he was now had the detail of his 5 direct reports. So he was absolutely swamped. So just getting people to shift that, when the environment changes, and equally, when we as we get older, our needs change. What's important to us changes. So the old patterns may not always serve us well, and that's where I'm very, very practical and pragmatic and say, right, we need to take the time to look at those patterns and reflect and say, is it actually still working, or are we just holding on to it because it's easy? And that would be, and I would hope, I do give all my clients get homework every week. They get homework, and the reason for that is, I'm a great believer is, you try one change out, test it. If it's working, we move with it. If it doesn't work, we try something else. So I very much, because the people I work with, whether they're self-employed or and they're expanding their business, or whether they're taking on a senior role, is very much, every change has to be stepwise, because they have to feel comfortable and confident in the change before they can move on. And that to me matters. So testing it every time matters. So that's my style. I'm really practical and grounded, and like all coaches, all I want is the best for them.
Yeah. Oh, that sounds great. So what I'm wondering is, if you can give some, because you've already started giving some practical tips, I think, but I'm wondering if you've got some tips, especially for the business owners, or anyone who's really overwhelmed and swamped with work. What do you think they need to address first if they're just in that place where they're just completely overwhelmed, their to-do lists are like forever, and they don't really know how to move forwards or how to reduce it down? They're starting to work weekends to just try and keep on top of things, and maybe they're working late into the evening. What would you say to them to look at first?
First thing I would like to remind them of is how you eat an elephant. One bite at a time. So every time you take a task off that list, you've taken a bite of the elephant. One task. What I would say is, we all, as individuals, some of us are morning people. Some of us are midday people. Some of us are evening people. If you are swamped with work and you've high priority work to do, you match the timing of doing that work with when your energy is best. So, because I have come across a number of people, say in corporate, who would be going in early to get a report written, or to concentrate on a piece of analysis or whatever it was. And then they would go in and they would view their email, have the coffee, talk to the colleagues, and by the time they'd all that done, the clients were on the phone. So that early morning hour that they went in to do the extra wasn't used. So very much, I will say, if you are swamped with work, be very, very aware. Where is your best performance time? And you match that to the most important piece of work.
That makes sense.
Yeah. So that's the first thing I would say. The second thing I would say is bound time. So if a task is, you think the task will take an hour, give it 1 hour. If our heads get into this, I'll do this task till it's finished. That is a cardinal rule for, I'll still be at it in 3 hours' time because somebody will come in and they'll have a chat and somebody will want a bit of help and your task gets drifted sideways. If you have said, I've 1 hour to do this, one of the things you can do is you can tell your colleagues, I'm really focused for the next hour, don't talk to me. They'll recognize it. You can turn off the phone for 1 hour. You shut off the notifications for 1 hour. So you give yourself the space to only focus on what you're doing.
That makes so much sense. And I found that batching like tasks together also really helps, and planning that time into my diary in advance where I'm doing those activities. So it's planned in, and it's from 10 till 11 in the morning.
Well, the interesting thing about the 10 to 11 in the morning, particularly for tasks you don't like doing, okay, if you're going on holidays, think of how many tasks you can clear off your desk the day you're going on holidays. If you can take that discipline, I've only got this time, you do it. You don't spend your time navel gazing and say, oh, is that the right hand? You'll just go with it and you'll just get it done. Just do it. And a lot of the time we put our task lists are full of the tasks we don't want to do. We avoid the tasks we don't want to do. So what I would very much say is, if your tasks are the ones you don't want to do, intersperse them with the ones you adore doing. So create a reward system consistently so that they get, and give yourself the time bound. There's another interesting task, almost as an aside to this, which I think is really, really beneficial, particularly on a Friday. And that is actually sit down in the last 15 minutes you're working and properly shut down work. So take the time to look at the tasks that are completed, acknowledge your work to yourself, and be grateful for the fact that you were able to do it. If there are tasks that need to move into next week, make your list on Friday afternoon so that when you come in Monday morning, you're not doing the planning exercise, you're doing the doing. Yeah, so you're getting stuck in straight away. So you're on that, almost like a treadmill, you're on the roll. You're not wondering what you can do. I was reminded yesterday, Ernest Hemingway used to actually finish his writing mid-sentence, so that when he sat down the next time to write, he already had the thought half there to work on. And it's the same idea. If you finish up your work, here's what I've done, here's what I'm doing next week, your brain is getting this wonderful message, it's done for now. It's time, it's rest time. I had one wonderful colleague, I used to encourage her, she sent emails to herself. And what she'd do is she sent the emails for the task for Monday morning, scheduled to arrive on Monday morning. And she could honestly tell her brain, they're in the post, they're in the mail.
Fantastic.
And it was a lovely little trick that worked wonderfully for her for many years. So I would say to people, be very, very clear, create boundaries. Our boundaries matter. So that, when you're working, you're 100% working. But when you come back out, you're 100% with family, with hobbies, with sports, fitness, whatever it is, that you're actually there. I think one of the worst things we can do is be half working and half on family time, because nobody gets served. But that's where I would say the reflection piece is so important. Is this working for me? Taking the time to say, is this process actually working? And then making a decision. You know what? This is not working. Because when in our heads, we know this is not working, it becomes a lot easier to make a decision, to make a change. Because you want it to work.
Absolutely. So I imagine that all of the things you've recommended really will help people to reclaim back their work-life balance.
It does. I would add a little proviso. We often talk about work being a 9 to 5.
Mm.
That's not necessarily true in today's world. But what is true is we all we tend to work in or around a 40-hour work week. So if we look at our week, our 168 hours every week, we take our 56 hours for sleep, we're left with 112. We take out our 40. And what's left is the other time. So we need to be more conscious of it. But thinking that our days might function the traditional start work at 9, get home at 6, that may not be correct. But what may be correct is if you look at the bigger picture of your week, and if you do shift work, you do it over the full sequence of the shift turnaround. And say, right, within that entire space, where do I want to put my focus for my family, my relationship, my children, my hobbies, my fitness, my just generally doing absolutely nothing. I mean, I sat down, sometimes sitting and doing absolutely nothing is necessary, and we might need to allow time for it. It's a good thing to do sometimes.
Absolutely.
So one of the things when people are struggling with their work-life balance is looking at things of, am I actually spending the time, and I've been guilty of this myself, flicking through our news feed on Facebook or LinkedIn or whichever, our Instagram or Snapchat or whatever our poison is, or in my case, doing crossword puzzles on my phone. Terrifying. And they're very soothing, very relaxing. But what we can happen is that the time we spend doing that, we're not aware of it. Mm-hmm. So if we're struggling with our work-life balance, we need to look at where are we actually spending the time. A really good friend of mine discovered that he was spending 4 hours a night watching TV and scrolling the internet, and he could not tell at the end of the evening what was on any technology.
Wow.
He was drifting, he was zoning in and zoning out.
Yeah.
So suddenly he decided, do you know what? I'm going to do my evenings differently. Mm-hmm. So he disciplined himself, and there will always be discipline to say, I'm going to spend an hour running. Mm-hmm. He's a runner anyway, so that was easy. And then he decided that he set himself a set of books he wanted to read. Now, some of them were online, some of them were hard copy. But because he realized I wasn't spending my time doing stuff that I actually had value in, mm-hmm. It became a lot easier. So I would challenge most people, be really aware. It's so easy. And, I'm not a saint. I definitely have done it. Yeah. Is that drifting time is the one part of your brain is saying, I just need to zone out.
Yeah.
And there is a need to zone out. But if you acknowledge it to ourselves, I'm zoning out here because I need it, and then look at, well, do I need it? Or is there something other way I want to spend that time? So those are the things that I think when it comes to work-life balance, being, we hear lots of people talk about be really present. Mm. Before you even get to that, you need to understand, where am I actually spending my time? Mm. Mm. And what am I doing? And but then the added piece, yes, I'm spending it on the internet. What am I getting out of it? Is this what I want out of it? And I think when you add in that piece of reflection, it becomes much easier then to make a decision to say, well, actually, that's not what I want. Mm. I want something different. Mm. And then you start the process, well, what do I want? And sometimes I particularly I would find this, say, with a lot of young parents, and I'm not going to specify young moms, it can happen to the men just as easily as the women, is that they're caught up in the parenting bit that they're losing sight of who they are as individuals, and taking time and feeling guilty for taking time for a hobby, or taking time to read a book. So that there is oftentimes, it's not a single decision. We don't exist in isolation. So when I make a decision, well, I'm going to shut myself off with a book, and the world is going to disappear around me. that impacts on those around me. So it's not always it's not just my work-life balance. It's the work-life balance of the system that matters most to me.
Yeah.
And you do have to take it into account.
Fab, this is amazing. So I want us to now address the big elephant in the corner of the room, which is the inbox, email inbox. Because I know that this is a terror for a lot of people, is opening their emails and just going, oh my God, like how many emails have I got to get through today? How many people have I got to respond to? What advice do you have for people to just be able to manage their email better? And please don't ask me how many emails are actually currently still sat in my inbox right now, because that's going to be very embarrassing to acknowledge.
I won't. No, there's a whole bunch of things. If you're as old as me and you were involved with email way back in the 90s, you got your email and you put it into a folder. And because the search technologies were very, very different, so you always filed away all your things in the right order as you got them, because there was a finite amount of space and a finite capability. I still have that discipline. It still serves me. If I'm going searching, I don't need it, because I can do a generic search and find everything. So, however, what has happened is that now people don't bother doing that filing. The downside of not having a structure to your email inbox is that you get this swamped, these numbers. So I would consider to people, here are some things you can consider. I have 2 email accounts that I use consistently, day in, day out. I have an inbox which is for clients, my bank, people like yourself that I'm doing business with, where I'm learning from you. You're all in one inbox. The other inbox contains all the other stuff that I have a vague interest in, but they're sending me emails every day. I have one lady, she sends me 2 emails a day and I don't read any of them.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, she was some sort of a marketer at some stage that I vaguely looked at. Why do I not just unsubscribe? I don't unsubscribe because sometimes if I've nothing else to do, I go in and look at her stuff and I might pick up something useful. So I don't actually want to unsubscribe from it, because some of the messages she sends are actually quite witty and funny and charming. They're great. Mm-hmm. So what I would say is, if you can separate your inbox. Mm-hmm. So if you've stuff that's been auto-generated, that you're on a feed where you're getting emails, I personally think have a separate inbox that you then choose to go in, because that sort of stuff is the stuff about things I'm interested in, things that I'd like to learn about. It might have loads of positive stuff. I have loads of coaches putting stuff in there, and I want to see the stuff if I'm being swamped. So I think there is a benefit to having 2 emails. If, however, you just want to have the one email, is auto move it. If it's stuff you're just getting, set up a rule on your inbox that push that there. We do react very differently to emails that we have read and emails that we have not read. So, obviously the ones you've not read, you need to read. Mm-hmm. But we all know how to mark as read. It doesn't quite work. So what I would say to people is, be very clear. Who are you looking for? What emails matter to you? If it's been auto-generated, get it moved, give it the attention. I would, assign time every day just to double check. It's like almost, it's not quite spam, but it's not, it's saying, I look at that when I've nothing else to do.
Yeah.
I would use the flagging on emails, is that when I see them coming in, I can flag the ones I want to pay attention to. And they are my sole priority. So I would say to people, prioritize the timing of when you read your email. I do not believe I hate notifications.
Yeah.
I hate seeing a flag. Oh, you've an email. You've a new email. You've a new email.
I agree. I think that this is so distracting, and it just takes you out of exactly what you're trying to focus on. So,
well, there's a really genuine reason why it does. If we look at prehistoric man, any movement on our peripheries was a potential threat. When we're concentrating on a task on our screen, something flashing in our peripheral vision is a potential threat to our prehistoric brain. So of course we're going to move to it. So where possible, I would say don't have automatic notifications of emails come in. But inside a work environment, you do have to methodically go in.
Yeah.
I believe with only a few exceptions, schedule when you do your email. So I don't do my email first thing in the morning. I do my high priority writing first thing in the morning. That's my priority. So that gets done. So I tend to wait till 10 o'clock, my cup of tea, then sit down and look at my email.
Yeah.
So it's a kind of, and if I have to do quick responses off to people, sure, I'm having a cup of tea and a chat, sure, it's grand.
Yeah.
Fabulous stuff. Equally, I will do something either just before lunch or just after lunch. And again, I will do something about 3/4 of an hour before I finish up in the day. That's the only times I look at email.
Fantastic.
Don't look at it the rest of the time.
Fantastic. I think that's such helpful advice. Wow. Mary, we have managed to cover a lot of the very key areas that I know people struggle with. And as a business owner myself, I would say your advice has absolutely highlighted some of the things that I've put in place, or that I know I need to put in place to help me, and I might have just let things go a little bit to the side, like they do.
The habit drips back in. You see.
Exactly. So I really, I think what you've shared, the principles you've shared, can absolutely transform people's lives. There's no doubt about that, because I've seen how a lot of those principles have helped me. Yeah. And I definitely come from a family of workaholics. Definitely come from that. So yeah, so this is really helpful. What I'd like to know is just, one last kind of piece of advice. What would you say to someone, who has been, really struggling with all these different areas? What's the single most important piece of advice you would want to share with them? Someone who is really at that state of maybe on the edge of burnout, with their work. What single piece of advice do you want to say to them?
Well, first of all, they need to remember you are enough. First and foremost, you are enough. You are highly valued, and you need to mind you. So the first priority is, where is your self-care going to start? Because, it's the words for the air hostesses. See to your own mask first before those of children and those around you. There's a really good reason for it. You'll be dead otherwise. So you must mind you first. If you have been expected to work 2 hours where you are burning out, it's time to stop, prioritize you, and ask for help. There's plenty of it out there. There's people like me who'll be pragmatic. There's health people who will do the health bit or the fitness bit. There's lots of us out there. But you need to say, time to stop. I need help, and go get it. It is so important. Don't keep struggling. It does not serve you, and it won't serve those around you.
Thank you. I think that was really beautifully said. And I also get something from this, because, like I said, I'm a bit of a trying to reform workaholic. And what I've been learning is that this is really about self-worth, and you brought that in so beautifully there. It's about being able to make space to listen to our own needs and to prioritize them, and
we have
to value ourselves, to value that actually we are important, and how we feel in our life is really important.
Yeah, I've always said it doesn't matter what your role is, you have value. And some people looked at me and said, but you know, I only do this job. And I said, you cannot have a 5-star hotel without good porters and good bathroom cleaners.
Exactly.
We all matter and we all have value.
Oh. So tell me, how can people get in touch with you? If they've been listening to this and they're thinking, oh my God, I need a bit of Mary's help, what can they do to get in touch with you?
Couple of ways, because I've been thinking about it for the last week, so there's a couple of ways for them to contact me. First is over on LinkedIn, I write Monday to Friday. So I do a little blog, a little tiny 1-minute read every day. It's always written with the hashtag coffee break moment.
Fantastic.
So all one word, hashtag coffee break moment. They'll be able to find my posts. So if they follow that hashtag, they'll find me and they'll be do it. So that's one way. Second thing is I'm going to get back into writing a weekly bigger blog. Starting this week. So if they want to register for my free weekly blog, go onto my website, which is marycorbettcoaching.com, and I will put them on the mailing list, which is going to get started this week, and they get a weekly coaching challenge. Equally, a couple of years ago, I wrote a book, which was called Good to Go, with little coaching challenges on it. And I still have a few copies left, so it's on the website. They can buy it direct from the website.
Fantastic.
Okay? But first and foremost, send me a message on message me on Facebook, Messenger, WhatsApp, LinkedIn. I'm everywhere. The only thing I'm not on is Instagram because I don't do instant. It's not my forte. So send me a direct message. I will respond. And if somebody wants to have a quick call and see, would I be the type of person that would suit them to work, we'll figure out a way of working at a time that works. You know, people fascinated that I like to coach at 6 a.m. and I like to coach in the evening. The reason being, I love to go for lunch, long lunches. Yeah. So I work around people. It's great, but it suits me. So I would say, you know, just absolutely. They'll find me. I'm going nowhere.
Fantastic. Well, thank you so much, Mary. It's been so great to interview you today, and I'm sure that this interview is going to be so helpful to so many people.
And I'm delighted to have the opportunity. Thank you so much, Shelley. And thanks for all your help in helping me get better at LinkedIn. I have really appreciated it.
Oh, you're so welcome. You're so welcome. All right, guys. Well, this has been an amazing interview with Mary. I hope you really enjoyed it. And I look forward to hearing all your feedback. Please do comment where you see this video posted on social media. Please do comment. Leave us your thoughts. Are you completely swamped with to-do lists? Have you learned some valuable information that's going to help you to change that? Are you a workaholic like me, or are you a reformed workaholic?
You're a reformed one, Shelley. You're a reformed.
Yeah, I like the lunches as well. All right, guys. Bye for now.
Bye.